One of the single most important things that you can learn how to do is to learn how to create effective rhythms on your instrument, okay? When I first started teaching guitar, and I have been teaching for over 25 years, but when I first started teaching, I had my first gig was actually teaching a class. I'd never taught a private lesson in my life, and I was teaching a class, which is probably not the brightest thing to do. So I had to come up with my own course, right? So I had to create my own book and put a bunch of stuff in there, and was all excited. The first thing I did was I started putting in some basic chords, and then I put in some basic strums. I would teach people how to do like like a down, 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 up, down, or something like that. And it went really well. The classes were very successful, and it was all great. It wasn't until a while after that I started realizing that I had created a bunch of unfortunate robots or zombies by the things that I was teaching them. And I found this out because some of the students would go on to further classes and then ultimately wind up in private lessons and that sort of thing. And I began noticing, and again, this was early on in my career, I began noticing that the strums that I had shown them how to play, they played those same strums for everything, every song, everything. And that's when I started realizing that although strumming patterns, learning how to play strumming patterns is something that we need to learn how to do, and it is important, there's a far more important element happening. And that is learning how to add realism and, what I call organic playing into your strumming when you play guitar. So what we're going to do right now is we're not even going to worry about the left hand. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on the right hand. And what I'm going to show you right now, if you really think about this and you implement it into your playing, your life will never be the same again. Your guitar playing will never be the same. And it doesn't matter if it's acoustic. It doesn't matter if it's electric. It doesn't matter what style of music you're playing. It's learning how to play the guitar like a singer would sing, a good singer would sing, right? We have got to learn how to play with dynamics. We have got to learn how to play with spatial differences. And I summarize all of those elements into a technique I call the ocean effect. And so what I want you to think about is this. If you were off staring at the ocean, what you're going to notice is that it's first of all, it's very captivating. It's very mesmerizing. But secondly, if you look deeper at it, you're going to start noticing that it's irregular. Everything about it isn't the same all the time. It's not predictable, and that's what makes it kind of fun. Sometimes you have really big waves. Sometimes you have very small waves. Sometimes you have very, if it's really windy out, the waves are very aggressive, white caps, all that sort of thing. And so somewhere along the line in my teaching, I started thinking about strumming very similar to that, in that what I want to do is I want to learn how to kind of pull at the emotions of the listener. Now, if I'm playing a metal song, the emotion is kind of one-dimensional. But if I'm playing acoustic guitar, and this is why I have an acoustic right now, the nice thing about this is when you play, you can sort of utilize the way that you're strumming to impact the listener. So, for instance, let me give you an example of what you don't want to do, right? If I go... After a while, somebody's going to want to throw something at my head and just tell me to stop playing, right? The trick is to try and add some emotion in there. Now, again, emotion, I'm not saying that you have to cry when you play guitar, although maybe that works for you, I don't know. But the trick is using those dynamic changes like the ocean. So, for instance, if I took my strum and instead of going... Let's start off by changing the space. So I'm not just doing a pattern. I'm not going down, 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 up, down the entire time. I'm going to start changing that by hitting in various spots. So what I want you to do to begin with here, I want you to practice just moving your hand away a little bit and start strumming down and up for me. And if you've never done this before, it's going to feel a little awkward. But believe me, it's going to work for you. So I want you to go like this with me. I want you to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And you're not strumming anything. Now what I want you to do is, as brainlessly as humanly possible, I want you to move into the strings and away from the strings. Don't think about a pattern. Just move in and out. like the wave of an ocean, right? It's getting bigger, getting smaller. We're moving in, we're moving out. Now, somewhere along the line of that, what I want you to do is start attaching onto a groove. Now, this is where the pattern might come back a little bit, but we're going to keep changing and altering that pattern so it's not the same thing over and over and over. So now I'm going to put a chord to it. I'm going to play G, and I'm just going to take that same idea Now, I'm not thinking at all about what I'm hitting and missing. I'm just hitting and missing things, okay? But I am aware of the fact that when I miss downs and I play ups, instead of always starting with downs, like the pattern I just showed you, I was doing down, 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 up, down. What makes that a little bit floppy and a little bit flat is that I'm using all downs. If I can skip some downs every once in a while and just use the ups, it begins to create a more realistic groove, a more human feel, where when I go, those downs are just punching you in the face. There's just downs all over the place. What you want to do is start missing some downs. Now, you don't have to miss them all, right? But you start missing some here and there to create some different spaces. Okay? So that's what I want you to start doing first, is we're just scratching here. I'm just touching all 6 strings without a chord. You can do it over a chord, but it's nice to just scratch the strings to begin with. Just that way you can really focus on what's happening over on your strumming hand and less on your chording hand. Okay? So we're just learning how to move in and out. Now, the second step is the size of those waves, the intensity of those waves, okay? What I want you to start thinking about is how you can hit the strings softer and harder. And yes, I know that you know that, just like I know that. But the more aware, the more in tune you are with the ability to be able to do that when you strum, the more human your music is going to sound, and the more it's going to be appealing to somebody that's listening, right? So if I start taking that same idea now, but now I'm just simply going to start using some softer and louder strums as well. And I can increase the intensity by strumming harder more often as I'm moving to something. So now let's go back. I'm going to take this G chord. I'm going to start moving back and forth between strumming it soft and strumming it loud, okay? With that spatial dynamic I just created, I'm trying to do both of these things at the same time. Now, you'll notice that sometimes when I strum down or strum hard, I'm strumming down. But sometimes I strum hard on the up strums as well. Okay? So I'm accenting, essentially, is what I'm doing. I'm accenting. The problem with starting off your song, whatever it is that you're doing, and again, the situation is different depending on what the song is or the style of music or anything like that. But if you start off strumming the strings full force all the time, the only place you have to go is quiet. If you start off kind of in the middle with your dynamic, you can go up and down from there. So instead of always beginning with the heaviest hand strum that you can possibly do, don't do that. Start off with kind of a medium strum, and that way you can build up and down whenever you want to. Okay? Like, think of it this way. If I was going from my verse to my chorus in my song, so I'm coming around like this. Right? You can feel that build, and I'm sure you've done that before, right? It's the verse is turning into the chorus, and so I'm building on that D chord. I'm strumming harder and harder, and maybe I'm strumming more, and then I get to that G, and now I'm really bashing. But the difference is I'm aware of the fact that I'm changing up my dynamic, not only within the context of my strum, but in the context of the song itself. The chord changes themselves. So the key here is for you to start learning how to think about those things, apply them to your own playing, become aware of it. That's one of the biggest battles that you have is in life in general, is learning to be aware of the situation and then how you can make it better. Instead of just going, well, I can strum the guitar. Well, of course you can. My wife always laughs at me because I can make rhythm on the guitar, but I can't dance my way out of a paper bag. So rhythm is something that needs to be explored, but in order to do that, you have to learn how to break it down and then build it back up. Understand that if you're very commonly always playing strumming patterns, after a while, they get so repetitive that people get bored with it. So you have to be careful of that. So you want to change that up, not by thinking pattern 17 and pattern 48 and pattern 2B. And again, that's way too much work. You actually want to learn how to do just the opposite. You want to shut that off, and you want to learn how to feel what you should be doing at that moment in music. Not just playing by route, but what does the song want you to be doing at that point? So that's a really important thing for you to think about. So that's what I want you to practice right now. When we do this again, what I want to do is I want to come back and I want to talk some more about elevating this idea to the next level. So between now and the next video that I send you, I want you to practice this, and please, please, please tell me how it's going, okay? Comment below this and let me know what's working and what's not. And if you have any questions about anything, let me know. And in the next video, I'm going to bring up those questions that you've got, or just general topics of discussion, any success stories that you're having. We're going to talk about that. We're going to figure out how to do this. So from this day forward, your guitar playing is completely different. It's something that when somebody's walking by and they hear you playing, they need to stop, right? They need to listen to what you're doing. Right? So we're not beating them over the head with a strum. We're enticing them, right? We're encouraging them by the way that we're strumming the guitar. And I want you to really think about that. So thanks for watching the video. Let me know your comments. Let me know what's working, what's not working for you. And like I said, in the next video, we're going to be bringing that up to the next level. I'm going to show you some really cool techniques that you can use to amplify your groove creation.